Essentially, they were accused of taking videos without people knowing, of doctors selling fetal tissue and other things.
Okay.
So they're charged with everything from, where is it? Anyway, all kinds of stuff that they did wrong.
Okay. Well, yeah, you shouldn't record people without their consent. I think that's
exactly
that's what this comes down to. That's been the theme of the week for a couple weeks now.
It really has, hasn't it?
Apparently.
Well, speaking of that, we're live, and we're on.
Not speaking of that at all, actually.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't speak of that. Anyway, tonight is the Daytripper Photo Show's episode number 211. We are talking about cell phone photography. Now, you notice I'm in a different environment. I'm at the Loft Studio today, which is why the sound might be echoey. It also might be why there might be a lag on our video a little bit. Hopefully not. But I was shooting a video for myself earlier today here. I had some classes I ran first, and then I had to do a video on how to use the Nikon Creative Lighting System. And I was telling Michael, when you were getting your drink fill, that it sucked really badly. And I totally lost interest halfway through, and I basically said, screw it, and I packed everything up and been sitting here preparing for the show ever since. But video is tough to do, and I didn't really enjoy doing it. So I don't know. Maybe that will. Maybe it won't happen. We'll see.
We can make it happen.
I think we should do a show on it.
On video?
On CLS.
Oh, okay. We could.
Creative Lighting System. Down the road. Down the road.
Yes.
So let me introduce you, whoever's watching right now, to our team. My name is Brian. Right here beside me is my good friend Philip Zerato. Hello.
Hello there.
Hello. And beside Philip is Michael Lane. Good day, sir.
Good day.
You sound fantastic, by the way.
For once. It's finally
you sound so good. Your rich tone, no crackling. Thumbs up, buddy. All right, cool. So today, cell phone photography. Now, why are we talking about cell phone photography? We've done this already. Why would we talk about this again?
Well, there's a lot of new technology, and it looks like more and more people these days are carrying a phone with them everywhere they go, more so than even a year or two ago. So I think it's a great time to, get back into it, review it, and as phones get better and better and better, and as you're actually going to get into in a minute, Brian, you just keep expanding, exploring, keep moving forward. Something
doing things. Exactly, all of those things. And yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, the technology has changed so much. The last time we did this show was about 3 years ago, and lots changed. Like, when we did that show, the whole reason for us doing it at that point was because I was looking to buy a new phone. And at that point, I wanted to buy the best camera, the best sound, the best screen, you name it. I ended up getting the Sony Xperia Z2. Well, about a week and a bit ago, I ended up trading that phone. Not trading it. I still have it. But I ended up not using that phone and going for the new Samsung Edge S7 Edge sucker. Awesome. It's like Phil was saying a few minutes ago, the technology has changed so much. To go from the phone I had, which was an incredible camera phone, to the new phone that I have, it's just night and day. So we're going to get into some of the things that are different. We're going to talk about some of the cool things you can do with a cell phone, how to use it properly, how to make interesting photos, even with a cell phone.
Yes.
And one quote that I just want to start the show off with, a good photo is a good photo, no matter what device it was taken with. That was Stan Horacek, who actually quoted that, and it makes so much sense. A good photo is a good photo no matter what device it's taken with. How long have people been taking photos?
A little over 150 years.
Give or take? Yeah.
Depending on when you want to start calling the first picture, but a while. A long time. Commercially and in a viable way, I'd say close to 120 years. Maybe a little bit more.
You cut out 100 and what?
120 years, give or take. Because the early 1900s, we started seeing the taking off of it. Well, late 1800s, but 1900s, we had an increase in technology. We had better distribution of wealth, and that accentuated the growth progress. And then newer technologies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And it became more affordable, and everybody got it, and blah, blah, blah. So with film, everybody can take a good photo. I mean, people say that you can't take a good photo with film. Sure, of course you can. It was amazing photos before digital. Digital came in. People say you can't take a good photo with digital because they were used to film. Of course you can take a good picture with digital. You just could see it right away. And now that there's cell phones, it's changed how we can take pictures. So when we get into the meat and potatoes of the show, we're going to get into some of those things that you can do. But before we get into that, I just want to send a quick shout out to our sponsors, Lens Pen, Cotton Carrier, Sennheiser, Sigma, of course, and Atmosphere Aerosol, all the groups that have allowed us to have some products to give to our photo contests that we do and hand out on day trips and so on. It really adds a different element to what we do, and I appreciate their support from day one with Cotton Carrier and Sigma, and then more recently Lens Pen, and then Sennheiser, and of course Atmosphere Aerosol. Thank you all so much. It really makes our show a little bit better. It makes our day trips a little bit more fun for people. So very cool. Thank you all so much for being a part of our show. And don't forget, if you're watching this show now on YouTube, please click like, subscribe, share our show with some family members or friends that you might think like photography, you might get something out of it. We're trying to make this show fun and educational. And at the same time, if you have questions because it's live, ask us, talk to us. Let us know what you're thinking. If you're watching this on YouTube, send a quick hello. Tell the world, Ma. I don't know where I'm going with that. But anyway, it's weird for me right now because at the studio here, I don't have two monitors. At home, I have two monitors, so I can have the show over here and I can have my notes over here, and it makes it a little bit more straightforward and easy to use. Here, I've got one little 15-inch MacBook. So if I look a little disjointed, that's probably why. Actually, we've got some comments already. Michelle says, hey, guys, and my background looks different. Looks a little lofty. It is lofty. It's incredibly lofty here. It's funny because I'm in the loft studio, and there's this big studio space, and I'm kind of tucked into this tiny little corner of it doing the show. But it's cool. I like it. If the sound's too echoey, everybody, oh well. Nothing I can do about that. Ivan says hello. Ivan, I want to congratulate you. For those of you who watched our photo review already, you know this, but Ivan actually took 2 prizes home from this photo review. He took first place for the focal length, the fundamentals challenge, and he took second place for the creatives challenge, which is sadness at the time. So good job, Ivan. Thank you so much for contributing and being a part of our photo challenges. Awesome stuff. All right, so let's get into this, guys. What kind of cell phone do you have there, Michael?
I'm using the iPhone 5S.
Good phone, good camera.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any troubles using that thing for photography?
Yeah, my camera's actually broken.
Oh no.
So the front of the camera cracked, or the front of the phone cracked, and then somehow in the process of that, I no longer have a back camera or flashlight, even though it's on the opposite side. So I don't really know what happened there, but I never really used it much for photography anyways. I personally don't spend much time on phone shooting.
Fair enough.
Well, and that's something that we always say is it's not so much the the best camera you can have on you is the one you have on you when you need it. And Gabriel says the best camera you can have on you is the one you have on you when you need it. So always have the best camera on you. It doesn't work that way though, does it, Phil?
I would say not. It'd be great if we could carry our DSLRs around with our kit of lenses, or if we go mirrorless, our mirrorless system around with our kit of lenses. But it's not practical for your day to day. And they would go through a lot more wear and tear than they already go through. So I think, I have the 6, I think, iPhone 6. And
iPhone 6?
I like it. It works. And for the pictures, yeah, it's not great. I'm not going to be making them, 13 by 19s on my wall. But if I see something cool, I'm going to try and shoot it. And I think for more and more people, especially the maybe some of the younger people or older people, which sounds like I'm describing everyone, I think a phone is a great entry to photography because you need a phone today anyway. And it's hard to find someone who doesn't have one. Martin.
I was thinking that in the back of my
but it's hard to find someone who doesn't actually have a phone. And so since everyone's phone has a decent camera built into it, I'm waving my phone around. I'm not sure if it's high enough. Decent camera built into it. A lot of times we see people shooting with their phones. Now, a lot of times that's stuff for Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat or Twitter. But occasionally you see some really great pictures coming out of a phone. So I think, and I'm going to be honest, I do it. I tend to poop on phones a little bit because I assume they can't do anything good. But what I have here is the same as a high-end point and shoot that I would have had 5 or 6 years ago, if not a little better. So there's not really anything wrong with taking a picture with your phone.
And the best thing is it's in your pocket.
Absolutely. It's with you all the time.
5 or 6 years ago, a high-end point and shoot was still a brick.
Yes.
You know, something that would bulge out of your pocket and probably give you back pain. So, yeah, it's really nice having that technology that we can just walk around with and use. The problem comes, and Phil kind of hit the nail on the head there. He's not going to print 13 by 19s with this thing. But you can.
Yes.
When's the last time you guys were in an Apple Mac store? Those huge things that they have up on the wall, they were all shot with iPhones. And you could do it if you have a good printer or so on. But at home, probably 8.5 by 11s is where you'd stop.
And I guess it's also going to depend on the area that you shoot the picture and how you shoot the picture. Because there's a lot more to taking a picture with our phones than just pointing it and pressing a button. And I think that's some of the stuff that we're going to get into a little bit more this evening.
Yeah, well, let's actually... Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say another thing as far as the big prints go and then using a smaller camera is it really comes down to perspective as well. You can get these massive cameras now with really high resolution, but when you're thinking about it, the distance you would be from a billboard, you only need 10-12 megapixels,
if that,
for a picture to have a high res looking print on a billboard. Because as big as it's going to be, it's only this big when you're looking at it compared to anything else. In your vision, it's only that big. Doesn't really need much. And it's the same rules for any big prints that you're going to have up on the wall above the shelves in a store. It's the same thing. In comparison, it's only this big when you're looking at it, and you're not going to be able to see where those little pixels are.
Yeah. Yeah, and even if you're printing it out to put it on your wall, you print out, let's say, a 2-foot by 3-foot print on the wall. You're not looking at it from 4 inches away. You're looking at it from the other side of the couch or the other side of the kitchen table. Unless you stand next to it, it's going to look pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess when we're on our computers editing photos, we call that pixel peeping.
Yes. Yeah, right, zoom in all the way, see what it looks like, that kind of stuff.
Right, but if you're looking at it from a distance, you can get away with quite a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Now, one thing that is a huge change from the last time we did this show to this time is the ability to shoot in RAW.
Yes.
Cell phones now, most decent cell phones give you an option to shoot RAW. The iPhone 7 does, this phone does, and that's just actually something I found yesterday. If you go into the advanced settings, you can change a lot of things. In fact, with this guy, I can literally go into full manual mode. Let me just close this. And I was just showing the guys earlier, if you go into your modes, you can choose Pro mode and literally control white balance and shutter speeds, and this isn't focusing at all. So here, let me go sideways to fill the frame. There we go. Shutter speed over here, exposure compensation. You have ISO control, white balance. You can change how it focuses. I mean, there's so much control. And this is the stock camera app. This isn't Camera Awesome or any of the other apps that you can get to control your phone. So just by getting into that camera mode, it gives me way more control over my photos than I was ever able to make before. A situation like, for example, if I were taking a picture outside and it was a really, really super sunny day and I'm looking at my screen and it's just way too bright, I can literally just go into a couple modes and exposure compensation, make the overall photo darker, or specifically choose a really fast shutter speed to stop action. Better than that, talking about stopping action. What were we doing at work the other day, Phil?
Not flying a drone around?
The video is a fantastic feature on these phones. And I can record at 120 frames per second video, in other words, slow motion video of a drone propeller and a drone taking off, or at the Fire on Ice session, I was able to use my cell phone to record the burning steel wool spinning in super slow motion and everything sparking as it hit. And it was just an amazing thing to do. So And it was like literally 2 clicks.
These are all really significant too, because part of the reason why I don't like doing any photography with my phone is control. I don't have that level of control with my phone. I haven't really gone through any of the fancy apps to see if I can acquire that control. But it's the simplicity of the functions on a phone that is what scares me away. I like having all of the settings at my fingertips. I like being able to decide exactly how the picture will be taken. And that's why I'm not doing it. But more and more of these phones coming out are just handing you these features right off the bat, because they know more and more people are getting interested in phone photography. So they're starting to acknowledge that more and really give you all of these features right away. And it completely changed. Like, phone photography has already completely changed the industry to an extent.
Oh, yeah.
And now bringing all of these DSLR functions into a cell phone is completely changing its own industry all over again. So
like even the new the Samsung S8 and S8 Plus have just been announced like yesterday or something. And apparently they have a new thing called multi-frame technology that captures 3 photos and selects the clearest image and then uses the other 2 to reduce motion blur.
That's insane.
So now we're taking photos with our cell phone that in normal situations would be blurry, and you'd have to keep on trying different photos. When all you have to do now is take 1 shot, and it takes 3 and blends them and extrapolates them and then gives you a sharp photo. And come on, that's pretty cool.
And this, I would like to say, like, we're going to have more and more advancements in phone technology and phone camera technology. But I don't think the part of the marketplace that I think is getting hit the most and the hardest by this is not so much the big DSLRs. It's the point and shoots. And that's why we're seeing point and shoots out there that you can buy a point and shoot for $1,500. That's more than some DSLRs.
Yeah.
But the biggest downfall to a phone is we can't zoom.
Right.
Sort of. And I know this is a point that you were going to touch on in a minute, Brian, but the issue we have with our phones is a lot of them don't have a moving lens. So if we want to get closer to a subject, we use what's called digital zoom. So we effectively just smush the picture farther apart so we get closer. And so an important thing for you to remember when you're shooting with your phone is just shoot as it is and crop later if you have to.
Okay, so just sorry, going to go to the questions here for a second.
Yes.
Michael, isn't this a tough subject for you? You once made fun of the fact that your college gave a cell phone photography class.
Good catch. That yeah, that does bug me that they would offer that. And I was much more judgmental about it before. And now I still don't like it, but I've more come to terms with it.
Okay.
Because it's so popular. But
well, it's the same thing with us at Henry's. I
wouldn't feel too bad. There used to be a phonography course at the Learning Lab.
When we started selling cell phones, of course, they started doing cell phonography classes. Did you do any of those? Did you teach any of those?
No, I don't think I was ever. It was always like odd timing, and I was never available for it. So I never got to actually see how it went. I have the notes, but
shucks,
they were really talking more so about, composition than really what you're doing with your phone. Because back when that was coming out, phones were pretty straightforward. It was, how can we take this limited technology, this thing that we have that can only do one thing, this camera we have that can't zoom and can only do one thing. I don't know where we've heard of that before. And how can we get the best shot possible for it? I was actually trying to get the one that didn't have the flash on it. And so the same concepts we would apply to early photography are the same things that we'd apply to cell phones. Right. Don't use the flash unless you have to. Crop after you shoot. That kind of stuff.
And these are all things that are changing, though.
Yes, but I do want to say the only thing worse than Nikon SnapBridge technology is the Wi-Fi on this thing. I can't get it hooked up. Like if I hold it right, the red light comes on. But
oh, jeez. The joke there is Nikon's Wi-Fi technology has branched into this new thing called SnapBridge, and we actually had the Nikon rep at our store. He wasn't too fond of our opinion, I'm sure, but whatever. Things change. Speaking of things changing, you know for a fact that there will be optical zoom on cell phones eventually.
Oh, it's
you know that they're going to have these kinds of things. Michael, you were talking about a cell phone that has 2 different cameras or 2 different lenses.
Yeah, and I'm not sure exactly which phone it was, but when I was out on a photo walk doing some street photography with a group of Humber students, one of them handed me their phone to take a group photo, and I was looking at it was a very, very wide lens that it was using, and I commented that I had to recompose myself to get the shot, and they went, "Oh, just switch lenses." And I look on the back of it, and there's 2 different lenses on either side of the flash. And she goes, "Yeah, one of them's a telephoto one, so you don't even have to move." I was like, "That's actually wicked that it's got 2 different cameras that you can switch between."
That's the whole beauty. I think the shot with this LG G5, 16 megapixel main camera on the left, 8 megapixel wide angle camera on the right. So you can actually get phones that have 2 different things. I think that's the budding stage of the actual power zoom. But the problem comes that it's just like any camera that with optical zoom, the lens has to optically move.
But with that in mind,
and these camera phones are going to be huge.
Well, with that in mind, we are getting further and further in camera technology. Like the University of Stuttgart, which is not how you pronounce that, but I'm going to go with that. Stuttgart. I'm going to go with Stuttgart. I've also been listening to way too many Norse mythology things. But anyway, they came up with a camera that has a diameter of 600 micrometers. This thing's tiny. It's a camera that can be injected with a syringe. So with that in mind, if we use 3D printing technology and just bring it a little larger than they did for the optics for this camera, we could make movable lenses in phones. Yes, we're probably a couple years away on that, but having a moving lens in a camera or a moving lens in a body that doesn't change is something we've seen in a lot of the waterproof cameras. And so I can see that kind of thing popping into phones as soon as we get over our weird fear of having phones that are thicker than a human hair.
Yeah, right.
But I've gotten
there was that.
I've gotten ourselves terribly off topic here.
I remember
just
that
a little bit
when I was long time ago when I was looking for point and shoot cameras. Before I even thought I was interested in photography and I just wanted a quick point and shoot. I remember there was a Sony camera that was exactly that. It was the fixed lens that had manual zoom, or like it had optical zoom instead of digital, but the optical zoom was inside the body rather than outside. And it was really cool.
And I've never fully learned how that works. My hypothesis is that it's kind of like a periscope, where the lens is mounted vertically with a mirror that directs it towards where you're shooting. I could be wrong, but in my head, that sounds like it works.
The way that I'm seeing it, just looking at the picture of one of these cameras, I'm thinking maybe the sensor must move with the lens.
That could work too. That would change the convergence distance.
Mm-hmm.
As you can tell, we're all
way off topic.
Electrical engineers, and we're
Technically, I think that would be more mechanical engineering, but that's okay.
Mechanical engineering.
No, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. But you know what I do have an idea of? Camera phones.
What?
That was supposed to be a segue.
Oh, segue. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Good,
so we've gone through a couple things. So, don't zoom, that kind of thing. But there's a couple other things we're meaning to look at.
Well, the first thing we have to talk about is the fact that a cell phone is inherently different than a regular camera because sensors are smaller, lenses are smaller, everything is much smaller. And we know with regular camera talk, the larger the sensor, the shallower the depth of field, the smaller the sensor, the deeper the depth of field. So a big problem we have taking interesting pictures with a cell phone is that everything's in focus all the time. So like regular photography, there are several ways that we can control depth of field. And I don't know if you guys agree with me, but having a picture with isolated focus or shallow depth of field can give you a more interesting looking picture. So to create that effect with a cell phone, being that your sensor is small and you don't necessarily have aperture control that makes a big difference, get close.
Absolutely.
Get far. These are the things that we can do to create our shallower depth of field. So one of the things that my old Sony did that I played with and never really had great success with was the blur effect. How you can choose where you want to focus, and it basically takes a picture and then a second picture with the background, a main picture with the foreground, and then you can physically turn a little dial to make the background blurrier or whatever, but it was always a really weird outline and it looked very fake. So one of the rules that I have is do not use in-camera fake blur. Say fake blur. It's a processed looking thing. When you can get close to something and take that photo to create the shallow depth of field, that makes all the difference, and it's optical and it looks very clean. So there's my first tip of the night is instead of working with shallow depth of field and special filters, move your camera closer to something and you're going to notice that the background will blur away more. Tip number 1. Phil,
There we go.
why don't you give a tip?
Absolutely. So I think the next tip that I come up with, well, we already talked about a little bit, which is don't zoom in with the zoom your camera your phone has. Crop afterwards to get the result you're looking for.
You cut out a little bit.
Oh, sorry. So a lot of camera phones give you the ability to, as I'm trying to pull mine up here, pull up. There we go. Allow you to basically pinch and zoom into your subject. Problem is, when we pinch to zoom, we actually end up just cropping our picture down digitally and losing a lot of information. So the best thing to do is take your picture normally and then do your final cropping, your shaping afterwards on the computer. And with the idea of doing things afterwards on the computer, try to actually edit your pictures instead of just using filters on them. So there's a bunch of software out there. You've been mentioning a couple earlier, but including things like the Photoshop app on your phone, which has varying reviews, as well as Lightroom Mobile, will actually let you get in and edit the pictures themselves as opposed to just putting an Instagram filter on top. Not that there's anything wrong with an Instagram filter, but you have a little bit more fine-tuned accuracy with more in-depth software.
Now, that being said, I'm going to kind of argue a little bit that there is something wrong with Instagram filter because it adds a lot of chunkiness to the picture. It adds very
nice.
You don't have to be nice, okay, but it makes your photos look very processed.
Yes.
If you're just trying to make a nice, clean-looking picture, but you have too much in the frame, for example, you could see the backdrop border to border. Rather than zooming in, just crop the backdrop away.
Yes.
You're still left with a very high-res photo, and it's nice and sharp. That's one thing. Now, there are a lot of really cool filters and things like that in phones. So even though I'm saying probably don't do all that, there are some really cool things you can do with just the built-in cameras even. But one of the things that I downloaded was a program called Open Camera. If you ever have an app on your phone, or if you ever have a phone, you don't have the proper apps to get into the manual controls or anything, Open Camera actually allows you to do a fairly decent zoom. It actually allows you to do exposure compensation and a few other little things as well. So there's quite a bit that this specific app lets you do that your standard app wouldn't. Now, it just so happens that this phone's standard camera thing does more than Open Camera does. But on my old phone, Open Camera was a huge asset. It gave me a lot of tools that I didn't have before. There's also some applications that you can get that will literally filter out acne and all those kinds of things. I had it on my phone. I deleted it, but it was automatic. I took a picture of somebody's face and I just hit a button and their face just went nice and clean. But what it really does is just softens everything. So
yes,
hit or miss. Michael, have you got a tip?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. What are you gonna say, Phil?
I was going to say there are other apps that let you add fun things to your pictures. Like you can get Snapchat.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is let you add things like faces on top of your subject's faces.
See, that's fun stuff. It's not necessarily, well, maybe you'll print that.
No, I totally wouldn't print it. But I just thought I would have fun with you making things soft. I was trying to find one. They had one that would put a flower bandana around your head and make your skin like just all one tone. I couldn't find it. So I thought I would just squirrel a little farther.
This is as far as Snapchat goes, Megan's favorite photo of me, which is now the background on her phone. And I'm very sorry for subjecting you all to this.
Oh, adorable. You're a bunny.
But I look great.
Oh.
You got like the big like anime eyes and everything.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's going to sound really funny, but I was playing with Snapchat the other day, and my wife was in the other room, and I just started giggling and giggling with all the different faces that you can do.
Oh, that's terrifying.
I still, every time I see this, I could literally open this app and sit there making faces for about 20 minutes. And every time I just giggle more and more. Oh, it makes me laugh. Oh, so many fun things you could do.
So another interesting fun fact about phone photography is that once you get involved with it, you'll never grow up.
Apparently.
That's funny because it's true. I'm going to go quickly here to the chat for one more second. Gord Taylor, a little while ago, he asked about HDR. And he says, by the way, good evening all. So good day to you, sir. Let's see here. Okay, all the other chat was Michael and Chris. Cool. So about that, HDR, in-phone HDR. Do you guys know much about that as an option?
Well, I know the iPhone, or at least the iPhone 6, has that as an option. And I don't know if it actually takes 3 pictures and smushes them together like you normally would see, or if it simply just expands the normal dynamic range of your shot. It can work. I usually find that the on-phone HDR options tend to, at least in my experience, make the picture a little grainier, and I don't usually see a huge change. But every camera is different, every situation is different, so it is built in for you to use if you want it.
I actually just played around with it a little bit with my phone. So here I'm going to see if I can show you guys this. A photo without the HDR, if it'll ever focus.
Okay. It's kind of bright.
Kind of bright. The background's quite dark, right, with the camera up above. If I go to the HDR, you can see a lot more detail in the background. Still not focused because this is very bad.
That's okay.
There we are.
But more detail.
There you go. But you can see, just like you said, Phil, along the top, you see all the grain.
Mm-hmm.
All along up here. Whoops, too far. There we go. The exposure is more accurate, but it does really grain up the photo. So excellent point. Absolutely true. And I don't need to go and delete that picture now because my new phone has a lot more space than my old phone. So I will delete it, but never mind. So what else can we talk about here, guys? What else do we have in our list?
Well,
Michael?
Well, one of the interesting things to talk about is the instant ability to share your world with others that is provided with a phone. And that takes actually a lot of different directions that you can go with. That is really the instant connectivity with a lot of phones now, to Facebook, to Instagram, to any just sending pictures over text. You have tons of options with social media, but one of the things that I found really interesting was instant printing. So they took the same idea as a Polaroid camera, which they do actually have modern Polaroid cameras now, which Fujifilm really jumped on and had their little Instax cameras. My best friend actually has one and completely loves it. She was using it all the time. They've also come out with a wireless mini printer that prints Polaroids, and you can connect your phone to it.
I do kind of want to come in here and just say that is one of the most hipster things possible, because it effectively takes a picture you shot on your phone and prints it on an actual piece of film.
It's true. It's funny. And it doesn't even really always look that good, especially if you're actually printing from a Fuji Instax camera. I mean, those are pretty.
They're fun.
I'm not sure about the Instax cameras or even the Instax printers. I don't really have a lot of personal experience with them. But as hipster as it is, I can say, as someone who's really interested in street photography, I think a really cool alternative to a business card is to go and take a random candid picture of someone and then be able to hand them that picture.
That is actually really
if you're able to have
like
your, and just even just as a portrait photographer, even on set during a shoot that I'm already doing, if I can write my information on the back of a little Polaroid film and just take a quick snapshot of someone and hand them that photo, there's a physical business card to keep in your memories. And you're a lot less likely to throw that out than an actual business card. So you kind of force people to remember you. So
good point.
I might try that.
Now that I've mentioned that idea. Only if those cameras were a little
now everybody's going to go buy. Yeah, everybody's going to go out and buy an Instax printer now, so you can print directly from your phone. Oh, hi, how you doing?
You're welcome, G.
I think the other thing to talk about too, we're talking a little bit about instant printers, but the flash, at least I find the flash on phones works okay, but I at least found on mine, I don't know if it's because it's so close or because my lens is always dirty, but every time I take a picture with flash, it almost bleeds into the picture itself and just washes everything out. So I try to avoid using the flash on my phone. Now, I know some people probably use the flash and are okay with it, or other people maybe use other features. What do you find works, Brian?
There's two things that you mentioned there that are interesting that we should talk about. First off, that your lens is dirty. You know, there's lens pens for that.
Yes, but every time I take it out of my pocket, I tend to grab it right by where the camera is.
I know, and it's huge. It's so easy just to put a big old fingerprint on there. So good point. But little lens pen, clean it up good. The second point would be something I've totally forgotten.
Using your flashlight. Flashlights a different
game. Don't talk about flashlights on this show.
There you go. Lens pen. Well, we could. We've talked about pretty much everything else.
That's a good point. That's a good
what
point.
Kind of rope goes
let's ask Mark Flinders.
Sorry, Mark. Under a bus is where we threw you.
I know, we're horrible. If you use your flashlight instead of the actual flash, you get to see your shadows. And being that it's a constant light that's on, you're able to actually let your camera adjust to the exposure. My cat, Dixie, she's a very dark cat. She's black and she's white in some spots. But if I were to use the flash and take a picture of her, her black fur has this total reflection off of it. If I use the flashlight, it's a light that's on and I can hold it and my camera will focus and the meter will expose properly and I can actually make a reasonable looking picture without blasting with flash. The second benefit of that is when Dixie sees a flash, she attacks sometimes. Well,
so you got.
But she could. So yeah, you just it's something to think about. You don't want to agitate somebody. You can use your flashlight on the phone instead of a flash.
And on the same note, a lot of companies are already running with that concept between using phones and using action cameras. They have mini LED panels as well, meant for smaller cameras and meant for mobile use. So you can even set up a little miniature video rig with your phone.
I do my entire vlog. Sorry, my journal with that. I don't like the word log. Log just bothers me. I like journal. Journal. It's better than vlog, don't you think?
It's something.
It's something. All right. So actually I use my cell phone. I started with my Sony, and everything that I do as far as my vlog, journal, whatever you want to call it, it's video with my phone. And there's so many things you can do that way. It's very cool. Actually, I've got the Brian's Brackets rig that I can literally walk around holding a handle with my phone mounted in it. Very handy. It's very handy. It's not stable, but this new phone has optical stabilization.
There you
That's
go.
something else that phones are having these days is built-in optical stabilization. So when you hit record on video, instead of jitters.
I think the new iPhone 7 has that as well. But I'm not
I would
sure
think
about that.
every phone from here forward will have that or something like it. So the technology has progressed quite a bit. What's this iPhone tap and hold screen to lock focus and exposure?
So we talked a little bit about what's it called? Apps and stuff that are on your phone, but I actually discovered it not that long ago. But on your phone itself, on your iPhone, if you have iOS 8 or newer, you can actually click on the screen and hold your finger, and you see that box flashes a couple times. And what that does is that locks the exposure and the focus on one spot. And then if you do that, and I recommend trying it out on your phone at home, you can actually slide your finger up or down the screen, and we can see on mine it's getting brighter or darker to actually adjust the exposure for the shot. So if you have an iPhone, you can actually lock your exposure and lock your focus and use exposure compensation, which is pretty cool.
Huh.
And would be a really useful thing if I knew about that a couple months ago when I was trying to take a couple pictures that weren't really working out for me. Now I could lock onto my dog, lock onto its eye instead of its nose, and then counteract for the fact that she's a white dog sitting in snow. But now we don't have
that makes
any
a
snow.
huge
That was one of my favorite discoveries with the phone as well. Whenever I was actually using the camera on my phone, I always had to do that because you always end up taking a picture of something that will just confuse the hell out of an auto reading.
Yes.
And when it comes to
That's
most cell phones, everything.
By the way, I just
Everything will
checked
be
that
auto-exposed
feature.
wrong.
Just checked that feature with my phone, and it does the same thing.
Nice.
So very neat, very cool stuff. All right, is there any other thing that we want to talk about here? Any other little quick tips?
I can say a little less in the direction of just cell phone use for photography. Cell phones are really, really popular now, especially just any mobile devices like iPads or other tablets are really popular to use for showing off your photos. And one of the biggest things that you'll notice when it comes to checking the color and really working with color in your photos is that it looks a little bit different than your computer screen will a lot of the time. So one of the just little hazards that I always have to keep in mind when I'm doing any sort of color work on my images is to, before publishing the image and letting everyone else see it, I'll have to look at it on my computer, then look at it on my Mac, then look at it on my iPad and my phone and really see where the color shift is and see where I'm comfortable leaving it, knowing that anyone on any device is going to see it a little bit differently. And it's an important thing to keep in mind with your own photography. If you want to be really critical with exactly how it appears, you have to also keep in mind that it's not going to look like that to the other guy. And there's going to be a lot of shift. I've noticed even for one example, I think the Samsung Galaxies compared to an iPhone, completely different color output. The iPhone screen is much colder, whereas the Samsung screens tend to be a little bit warmer.
Sorry, I just had a message come in.
It's okay.
Messages distract me. It's like somebody waving coffee over there. It's like, oh, coffee. I want to go get that. Phil's looking for coffee now. All right. So we've talked mostly about some of the things you can do. Now, composition-wise, do you guys have any tips on how to use a cell phone to improve composition?
My main tip would be to follow all the normal rules of compositions that you would use with a normal camera and use that.
Why would you do that?
Your pictures.
That just doesn't make any sense at all.
So, follow the idea of the rule of thirds if it fits your picture, change your angle of view, follow lines, textures, patterns, see the shot and make the camera take what you want.
Awesome. Michael, any thoughts?
Really not much to add to that. If I'm taking any photos with my phone, I'm really just working with the exact same rule of thumb of just using rule of thirds or any other design techniques and just deal with the fact that I can't have the same shallow depth of field that I would on my camera.
And it goes right back to our quote of the day. A good photo is a good photo, no matter what device it's taken with.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Now, we didn't talk about it, but I do want to just make a quick side note. There are a ton of accessories you can get for your phones. You can get lenses that clip onto the front that let you, zoom into a subject or get closer to a subject. So you can get clip-on lenses that give you a macro lens or give you a telephoto lens. And I couldn't find it, but there is one that lets you use older, I don't know if they're Canon or Nikon lenses, but you can physically mount a lens to the front of your camera. The front of your phone. It's a big camera case and that kind of stuff, but it's cool. So there's a
That's
ton of
crazy.
accessories out there, especially, you have the Brian's bracket, which lets you hold your flimsy device like an actual device, and you can have a tripod on it. You can attach stuff to it. So there's a ton of accessories for making your phone a better picture taking device.
Actually, that's a good point. I'm going to suggest, if anybody's interested, check out briansbrackets.ca, BRIAN, not BRYAN. He can custom build you, like you get a kit of accessories. It's like a mechano set, and you build it around your device you want to hold. So actually, I'm going to go grab my bracket thing and show you guys what I'm talking about. So if somebody can talk for a second, I'm just going to go get that. I'll be right back. Speak. That's not working, is it? Michael.
Oof.
Got something?
We're almost done our notes. What do we talk about? Let's talk about this. This is something that Phil has a little more input on, I think, is Photoshop Express and Lightroom Mobile and all the mobile apps that you can work with.
And there's a ton of apps out there. So I just found a crazy picture of an iPhone SLR mount with a 300mm f4 on it. So apparently these things exist. I have no idea if they work, but they look really cool.
Did you say a Nikon SLR mount?
Sorry, Canon SLR mount.
I was going to say, I've never seen a white Nikon.
There are white Nikons. They do make them. What you do is you get your Nikon lens, and then you go to Lowe's and get a can of white spray paint, mask off the lens part, and instantly voiding warranty.
Instantly, yes. So here is the bracket that we were talking about. It's a little bit big, but to hold on to it like this and just move smoothly, and again, all your controls are still accessible, so you can turn your phone on, your camera on, just like that. Makes it very easy to hold. And this is how I do my videos. I just flip it around so I can see myself and just do a quick video like that. So very quick, very easy to adjust. You just literally take this piece here, phone comes off, this slides up and down, and this scene here can go side to side depending on where you want to mount stuff. And up here, I can take off these little screws and mount a flash or a light or a microphone or whatever I want to mount to it. So it becomes a very modular system. And some people will say, well, why don't you just go get a DJI Osmo Mobile or something so that you can have total steadiness? Unfortunately, the Osmo, you can't mount to a tripod and have that steady, so I can sit and watch my Netflix on my phone with this thing, just mount it in there. I know I sound like I'm selling the thing. Maybe I am. Who knows? I like it. So there you go. Something else to use. All right. So let's see here. What else do we have to talk about here, guys? Bueller? Anyone?
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's just a white 24 to 70. Sorry, white 70 to 200 from Nikon.
What?
Shenanigans.
Oh, okay. Nikon box in the back and Canon lens in the front.
No, that's legitimately a Nikon lens.
Oh, it even says VR on it.
Yeah. They, I guess,
Okay.
can have a series.
Now we're totally scrolling.
Oh,
but
totally.
look at Michael. He's totally
It's-
tilted over to the side.
It's the rare albino Nikon.
Yeah, there's apparently a lot of them.
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
What is this? I like that white camera.
Oh,
That is magical.
that is.
Okay, yeah, I do like
White
that.
D3. It's a unicorn.
What is this?
Okay, let's
I like this. Let's do this.
typical typical camera people, right? Like the minute we start talking about cell phones, we have to go right back to the big lenses. Beautiful. Chris, Michael, I made a request to join. Thanks for the link, Brian. You are welcome. I will go right there and instantly approve you. Let me just see. Where are you? Requests. Nope, not there yet. What else?
Now,
What
Nikon
are you
does
giggling
make
about?
white lenses, but sometimes you shouldn't buy them.
Oh my God. Wait a minute, Phil, you like the waterproof 1 series camera.
I like the idea of it. The actual design was not great. The fact that the waterproof seal was on the body instead of on the lens, which meant that if you put a normal Nikon 1 series lens on it, that seal was exposed to sunlight, to dust, to dirt. It just seemed like a not great idea.
Well, we all know how I feel about the 1 Series cameras. I sold 13 the first month they were available. I had 7 returned that same month. I don't sell them.
And if you still own
Moving
one,
on.
they're awesome.
If you still own one, they're the best camera in the world. No, not really. All right, so some hot topics. Like I talked about it a few minutes ago, the Samsung S8 and S8 Plus are just around the corner. Very cool updates on that camera. The first of which we talked about already is where it takes multiple pictures and stacks them. Well, it doesn't stack them, but gives you basically the best of each in one photo. So it's nice and sharp at all time. So that's in-camera processing. Now, there's also the Google Pixel camera phone, which I was very close to getting, by the way. The reason I didn't go for the Pixel, A, it's not water resistant, and B, it's not SD card expandable. This is both of those. So I went for this guy because I can pour water on it, which I didn't just do because I would get soaked and my computer would fry. And B, I can put in an SD card or micro SD card and go up to 256 or 128 gig expanded. How much would it cost for 128 gig iPhone?
A lot.
A lot too much.
Add a 0 to the end of how much ever your SD card was, and you're probably coming out with the right amount.
Yeah, you're right. About $1,200, $1,300 probably. So I was able to get this phone for, I think it cost me $10 by the time it was all said and done. And thank you very much, Samsung, for the SD card expandable. Love it. So that's something else to think about. When you're about to buy your next camera phone, think about where you're going to use it and what you didn't like about your previous phone, and that'll give you some ideas of what to buy for the next one. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't want to. My Sony was beautiful, but the screen was very easy to scratch. It was a different kind of screen. The weird thing was I could actually use a pencil to control it, but me using a pencil to control it gave all these little scratches all over the screen. So that sucked. And I got a crack in it very easily, and that basically got rid of the waterproofness. And all of the doors or all of the places where you plug something in, like for example, under here, you can kind of tell that there's a rubberized seal around all the headphone jack and everything. Whereas on my other one, there was a flap that covered those things. And if I needed to put an SD card in or something like that, I had to remove the flap, plug it in, or to charge it, I had to remove the flap, plug it in. The flap broke away. And of course, now the phone isn't waterproof anymore. So whatever. Michael, what are you trying to say about Samsung?
I had an incident with them way back in 2012, I think. And since then, I will never give them another dime of my money.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear, oh, dear.
Terrible
well, you know.
Customer service. But maybe that's just for me.
Okay, so here's the deal. Phil and I both work in retail sales. I don't know of very many companies, manufacturing companies, that give amazing service. I just don't. Maybe Gentech Distribution that distributes Sigma. If you have a problem with your Sigma lens, they have phenomenal service. Like Canon, Nikon, I mean, you name it. It's all corporate. Sony, you're never going to get phenomenal service. You're never going to come away and say, oh my God, I love Sony. They're just so great to talk to. It doesn't happen.
But there's sort of, there has to be that line of, I know it's going to not be great. I know they're just kind of running off script most of the times that you're talking to them. And I've had a lot of bad experiences with different companies. I've had a lot of good experiences with different companies. But most of them will never push you over the line of, I've lost all respect for you as a business.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And, you know, I can't tell anybody who's had a bad experience to suck it up and get past that, because you shouldn't. If you did, everybody would give bad experiences and not have to worry about repercussions. So that makes sense. I was talking about the Google Pixel for a minute, and one of the things that I wanted to get into was the reason why their cameras are so good, and they are. Their cameras are fantastic. They take great photos, but they have a system in their camera. Their software is called Gcam, and it's the Gcam software that really makes the Google Pixel camera that much better. It's not necessarily their lenses or other things. So I'm not going to get into every little reason why, but the bottom line is software in your cell phone has a lot to do with the quality that you end up getting in the long run. It's all software these days. It's all firmware. And the beauty is you can update firmware by just a simple update.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always new features that are going to be added to these phones. It's just really interesting to see. Like 3 years ago, cell phones weren't half as good as they are today. And I was so excited to get that new phone based on the technology that was available. 3 years from now, who knows what'll be on cell phones? Again, I'm predicting power zoom and like optical zoom and some other features like that, but who knows? All right, so there's really not a lot in the way of hot topics today. There hasn't been too much going on in the world of photography that we want to get into at a heavy amount. So what we're going to do is we're going to move along to quickly just talk about some upcoming sessions from Daytripper Photo and to talk about the new photo challenge that we have issued. As I mentioned earlier, the photo challenge for March is now complete, and the winners in focal length were number 1, Ivan, and number 2 was Connie. Great job, guys, with your photos for our photo challenges. And in the creatives challenge, which was sadness, we had number 1 was Taylor. Taylor's doing great stuff in our community. And number 2 was Ivan for that one. The next challenges that we have, and again, the way these challenges work is pretty straightforward. We're not actually doing the photo reviews during this live show anymore. We're doing a pre-recorded show for a photo review and posting that on the Tuesday before the show. So, for example, yesterday, we posted the March Photo Challenge critique, which included our photo challenge, which I'm stoked about. I think we had a great time doing it, and I can't wait for the next one. But for the next photo challenge, the challenge will end on the 21st of April. So the next challenges that I'm just going to read off in a minute, you have until the April 21st to shoot them and share them to the community. And then on the 24th, we will post our review of those photos. And of course, we'll have our challenge too. So the current photo challenges, remember, we've broken this up into fundamentals and creatives. The current fundamental photo challenge is motion. Do what you will with it. It's just to help you understand how to shoot motion if you're trying to achieve sharpness or you're trying to achieve blur in the photo. That's what the challenge is. So guys, have a great time with it. And for the creative, I'm going to have Phil explain. It's going to be lines.
Yes, so we're going to do lines, and that can be anything that you want to think of, whether it's a pattern, whether it's going to be you using a line as your subject. Just get creative and think a little outside the box for it. Cool. And I did want to bring up with both the fundamentals and the creative challenge, as always, we are looking for new images. So they have to be shot in the span of the challenge.
Good. I'm glad you mentioned that because there was some photos. There were some photos posted for the current challenge already that were taken in 2015. So unfortunately, those aren't eligible to win the photo challenges. But again, the whole point is to get people making new photos, right, Phil?
Yeah, like we did for the host challenge. We had to come up with sometimes an image the day of, but come up with something, and then put it into practice and shoot it. And it really was great for us, at least, because it forced us to be, or at least me, to be more creative and think outside the box. And so I'm really looking forward to the next host challenge, personally, because I look forward to shooting a bit more and to seeing what everyone comes up with for the photo challenges that are currently going on as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Michael, how do you feel about our host challenges? That was your idea, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I really missed having homework, actually. So I partially wanted to do the host challenges just to have a little extra inspiration to do something different. And I love the idea of having the community join in it and really give us a challenge and let us know what they want to see from us. And it gives I think it gives everyone a little bit more of an opportunity to really share our work, see what our own fortes are and share our personal take on everything and see all the different directions that we can approach something. And it gives us more to discuss on how we got those images and what we can teach in the process. So really think about in the future challenges, when you guys want to give us a challenge for this, think about the things that you would want to see us try to do and give us a challenge that would be a little bit of outside the box for us, but also try to give us challenges of things that you would be interested in being able to do, so that we can all have our own take on how to problem solve, how to reach that task and get that image created.
Yes.
Yeah, you learn a lot from seeing what other people do. What was that, Phil?
I was gonna say, because we'll all have our own take on whatever the subject is, as we did this past challenge as well.
So true, so true. So the past challenge that was issued to us was backlight only, and I had a blast, of course. What did I do? Light painting. Go figure. So one thing that I kind of hope to see, and it wasn't really mentioned, we asked the community what they would want us to shoot. So I'm going to read off some of the suggestions that people have already given us, if I could find that here. Okay, here we go. So far we have texture or reflection, we have flight, and we have aroma. But I really don't want to forget about Michelle Scott's suggestion from last time, which was the host mix it up. Basically, I thought it was really cool. Like, Phil's laughing, I think I know why you're laughing. Yes. Host mix it up was supposed to be, I would shoot something in Phil's style, and Phil would shoot something in Michael's style. Michael would shoot something in my style, or something like that. Phil, you told me, like, what is your style? What would that be?
I was trying to come up with what my style would be for that, and I think we settled on not taking pictures.
So if we all do Phil's style, there would be no submissions for our challenge.
Yeah. Just try something, have it not work, and be like, okay, we'll try it later, and then just never get back around to it.
I think we all do that, though.
I think so.
I wouldn't be surprised if half the people... Right, half the people that submit photos for our photo challenges probably start off at one point and then get frustrated and put it away and then get back to it later, which is why we give a month to do this.
Yes.
Now. So there's plenty of time, hopefully, for people to do their photos, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what people choose for us. So thank you, everybody. I've disappeared. What? Oh, there we go. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of our show, for giving us something to shoot for. Hey, guys, we are just like you. Yeah, but we get on a video camera and pretend that we know what we're talking about. But bottom line is, we all love photography. We love doing this kind of stuff. And when we're issued a challenge, especially something we can sink our teeth into, it's exciting. So keep it going, guys. I can't wait to see. We were supposed to close the choices at the end of the show. We only have 3 choices. So I'm going to leave that open for a little bit. I'm going to leave that open until, I guess, Saturday morning. On Saturday morning, I'm going to post all of the people. I'm going to do a poll. I'm going to post all the suggestions we have, and then we're going to let the community choose the photo. And by that Monday morning, we will have the photo challenge for the hosts. So
sounds good.
That's how it's going to work. You guys have until Saturday morning to give us a challenge. I can't wait to see what all happens. Thank you all so much for watching tonight. Phil, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, as always.
Pleasure. And Michael, thank you, sir, for being here. An awesome job with your sound tonight.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's so exciting when your sound works. I mean, we always spend the first half hour before our show going over what we want to talk about in the show. And unfortunately, when Michael's microphone starts acting up, it's like 10 minutes is all just, why is this fucking
Do I still sound like a robot? I'm turning this thing back. I'm getting a new one. Tired of it.
Well, it's working now. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It's about as consistent as a teenager's mood.
Oh, dear.
Oh, jeez. Okay, let's see here. Chris, I did get your request to join the community. Let me just go here. And why isn't it there yet? That's weird. Did you guys already approve Chris?
I did not, but
I got Chris and Mel both approved.
Oh, never mind.
Oh, perfect. Excellent. So you guys are in. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Okay, thank you so much. That's it for us. We're out of here. Me from the Loft Studio, these guys from their homes. Thank you all so much for watching. I really look forward to getting that photo challenge from you, and we will see you all very soon. Meantime, if you have any questions about photography, please post them to the Daytripper photo community, and you'll get a great answer. There's lots of amazing people in there. What are we up to now in the community?
Couple hundred?
couple 500?
500 and something.
526 members. That's
There you go.
amazing.
That
If we
is.
can get at least one half of those members to contribute on a more regular basis, the community will just do amazing things. So, guys,
We also need more than like an hour to talk about pictures, but that's not an issue.
yes.
I would prefer to talk about pictures longer.
You know what? Being that it's a pre-recorded show now, we are going to hold up people. You can watch it anytime. So submit your photos, guys. Get them in there. The photo challenges, fundamentals is motion, creatives is lines. Can't wait to see what you've got going on. And we're out of here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our show. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.